welcome to the Grammaticus tutorial on Fold and Punch. Today we're going to look at this spatial reasoning question, which has appeared in recent years on the Lincolnshire GL familiarisation paper, but has yet to appear on the real thing. However, we can expect it to be on in the coming years. Before we have a little look at the questions, let's look at the principles behind this question and look at it practically before we look at the actual questions themselves. This question type involves imagining what will happen when we fold a piece of paper and then punch it and then open it up again. Now, what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to make some simple folds. I'm going to fold a piece of paper in half, and then I'm going to fold the piece of paper in half again. Now, if we think about the number of folds that I've made, I folded it once, so I've now got 2 layers, and then when I folded it again, I have 4 layers. And if we look here at the side, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 layers of paper. If I was to make a hole in this, just one single hole, and then I opened it up, I would have 4 holes. If I folded the piece of paper again, I would now have 8 layers because it doubles each time I completely fold the paper. So if I was to make a single hole and then open up the piece of paper, I would have 8 holes. Now, an understanding of what happens to a piece of paper and how the layers increase as we fold them is very useful for answering these questions, because we can often count holes to help us work out possible answers. I'm just going to open up this piece of paper again, and I'm just going to show you what happens when we make a variety of different punches on it. So I'm going to fold the piece of paper in half, and I'm going to punch a hole in it. Okay, now here's my piece of paper now with the hole punched in it. I'm now going to open that piece of paper up, and I'm going to see what pattern I'm aware of. Now, if you can see here, I've got my fold line here in the middle. Now that fold line acts like a mirror line. This hole that I made here is the same distance away from the fold line as this. They are symmetrical along the fold line, and that's important to know. Now, often we get a circle shape in the 11 plus, but we often can have other shapes as well, and it's important to know what those other shapes can look like. Now, I've got a lovely paw print here, so I'm going to make another shape on here with the paw print. Now, it's important to realise that when you're given a shape that is going to have a different reflection, that needs to be taken into account when you think about opening up your piece of paper. If you have a little look, you can see that the dog foot is reflected in the mirror line, and it's here. So all of those things are important. They're all important things for us to think about and to be aware of. Let's just have a little look at the questions now and how we go about solving these, because it's been okay for me. I've got pieces of paper and I've got hole punches, and so I've actually been able to carry these out practically. But how do we go about solving these when we haven't got a hole puncher and we haven't got paper in the exam? How do we tackle them? Let's have a little look. If we read the instructions at the top, it says each piece of paper has been folded and holes have been punched out of it. Which image will the paper look like when it's unfolded? Circle the correct letter. So if you have a little look here, you can see that in the instructions we've been told that the piece of paper has been folded on the diagonal once, okay, and a hole, a triangular hole, has been punched in the corner. Now, it's important to remember what we saw when we had the paw print here. You could see that the paw print here was reflected in the mirror line over here. And similarly, we have one fold And if we just look at the paw print, when we opened it up, we had 2 paw prints. So let's have a little look at the question. Let's think what this shape is going to look like when it's opened up. Well, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put in and draw in the fold line that's been carried out in this question, so we can see that fold line there. And I'm going to look at the position of each of these shapes in relation to the fold line. I'm going to start over here to start with. Well, I can see that this shape is that far away from the fold line, and this one seems nearer. And something I've noticed is this shape here is in the same orientation as the shape here. It hasn't been reflected. I would expect it, the corner of the right angled triangle here, to sit into the right angled triangle of the square in this corner. So because it's not a reflection, and I would expect it to be a reflection in the mirror line, I'm going to discount A. If I have a little look at the 2 that I have remaining, I can see that this one is nicely tucked in the corner, as is this one. And this one is nicely tucked in the corner, but this one is halfway along. And if I consider where that's gone into the mirror line and where it comes out, I can see that those 2 shapes aren't in line. So I can discount B, and C is going to be my correct shape. So I'm going to circle that, and then I can mark that on my answer sheet. Okay, let's have a little look at question 2. On question 2, I've folded it once, which gives me 2 layers, and then I've folded it again. So I've doubled the 2 to 4, and then I've punched a hole here. Now the folds on this have been a little bit more complicated, so what I'm going to consider is what these shapes are going to look like when it's been unfolded. Well, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer this shape across onto here. So I'm going to transfer this across onto here, and I'm going to draw that shape on here. Now I can see that it's been folded up and the shape's been made like this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to think, okay, I've folded it up, so what would this look like when it was unfolded? And it would look like the shape upside down. Then if I transfer those across here again, I can think, okay, what are these shapes going to look like when they're reflected in this mirror line here? Well, it's a vertical mirror line, so actually these shapes are going to remain looking very much the same as they were before. They're not going to flip like they did in that horizontal mirror line. So now I've got a rough guide of how these shapes are going to look. So I'm looking for almost like 2 frowns and 2 smiles. So if I have a little look over here, well, I've got a frown and a frown, and I've got a frown and a frown. They're not reflected in that horizontal mirror line like I would expect. So I'm going to get rid of A. I can see in B that I have the 2 frowns and the 2 smiles, so that's looking okay. And I have the same in C. But in C, they're much closer together. So what I'm going to do, like I did in question 1, I'm going to draw lines on my piece of paper, and I'm going to see how the shapes sit. Now I can see that on C they don't sit where my fold lines would be, whereas although I haven't drawn the lines particularly well, I can see that both of these are sort of equidistant from the fold line, much more so than in C. So I can make the decision that B is the correct answer. I can mark that on my answer sheet and then mark question 2 off. Now I can see that I haven't marked question 1 off, so I can go and check my answer sheet and make sure that I have circled C on it, and then I can go back and just cross off number 1. Okay, let's have a little look at question number 3. Now on question number 3 we've folded it up once, so I've got two layers when we get over to here. Then I'm going to fold this side down and this side down. Now although I'm carrying out 2 folds there, I'm not going to have any more then layers of 4. So they've gone up to layers of 4 and a layer of 4. So here I've got a layer of 4 and here I've got a layer of 4. And then I'm being told that that's going to be folded over again. So I'm expecting for a 4 there to be 8 layers. So I'm looking for 8 holes because I'm making one hole in my piece of paper. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to count how many holes I've got in each of these pieces of paper over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's a possibility. On B I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I can discount that because I haven't got enough. And in C I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's a possibility as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put my fold lines in to see if I can sort of see any sort of reflections along those fold lines. Well, I'm going to put one in here and I'm going to put one in here. Now straight away I can see that I haven't got the correct number of holes. They're not equally spaced. I've got 2 at the top of this fold line and 1 at the bottom. 2 at the top and 1 at the bottom. So straight away that doesn't feel right. So I'm going to go straight over to C and I'm going to put the remaining fold lines in that I put to make sure that I have lines of symmetry along those as well. So I'm going to put those in there and I can see that that is a reflection of this one. Here I've got a reflection here, a reflection here and a reflection here. And if I put that line in there as well, I can see I have similarly have them reflected. So I can happily circle C and then cross it off. Okay, let's have a little look at question number 4. Now in question number 4 we haven't folded the paper completely in a half, and we need to be aware that this is a common thing that they do and it can get a little bit confusing. So it's been folded a third of the way down the page and then it's been folded up again. Now we've got to think carefully about what this will look like when it's being opened up. Okay, so let's consider what we're going to actually have in each of these places here. So it's been folded up and we have put a heart here and a heart here. Now I've got to imagine what those hearts would be like when that was unfolded. Well, this heart would be facing up and this heart would be facing the wrong way, so it would be upside down. Now I can go across and I can have a little look and see if there are any there that I can get rid of because we haven't got the right orientation of the hearts at the bottom. So if we go over here I can see I've got a heart upside down and one the right way up. Here I can see that both hearts are the same way. Well, that can't be because I do know that the hearts have to be facing in different directions, so I can get rid of B straight away. And I know that when I unfold this again, the hearts again are going to be a reflection of each other. So if I think about the unfolding of it, it's going to look a little bit like this, because this heart will be a reflection of this heart a reflection of this one here, and this one here. So if I consider the two options I've got left, I can see that in C, this heart isn't a reflection of this one, and here my unfolded shape is exactly like the one that I've sort of worked out that I've unfolded there. So A is going to be my correct answer. I'm going to mark that on my answer sheet and then I can cross off question 4. Now there is a worksheet on this question type and I look forward to seeing you again in the next tutorial. Goodbye.